Danny Holt wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the broken atmospheric regulator in front of him. The machine was making a strange buzzing sound that he had never heard before. He had been working as a maintenance technician for 7 years, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for alien technology. He was aboard the Royal Starship, a massive vessel that floated through space like a silver whale. The ship was beautiful in a way that made him uncomfortable. Everything curved in strange directions. The walls seemed to breathe. The lights changed color depending on who walked past them. Danny felt like an insect inside a living creature. 3 days ago, his captain had assigned him to this mission. The human diplomatic vessel needed someone to fix equipment in the guest quarters, and Danny was the best technician they had. He had accepted the job without complaint, but now he wished he had said no. The translation device in his ear crackled and popped. It had been glitching since he arrived. Sometimes it translated perfectly. Other times it gave him nonsense words that made no sense at all. Right now, it was telling him that the nearby sign said "Water Place of the High Ones," which could mean anything. Danny pressed a button on his diagnostic tool and frowned at the screen. The atmospheric regulator was not broken here. The problem came from somewhere deeper in the ship, 2 levels below his current position. He would have to follow the maintenance shaft down into parts of the vessel he had never seen before. He gathered his tools and opened the shaft entrance. A wave of warm, humid air hit his face. It smelled like salt and something sweet that he could not identify. The deeper he went, the warmer it became. Steam began to form on his visor, making it hard to see. Danny climbed down slowly, his boots finding grip on the strange metallic rungs. They did not build things the way humans did. Their ladders were too far apart, designed for creatures with longer limbs. Every step was a small struggle. After what felt like forever, he reached a small platform with a door. The door was not marked, but Danny assumed it was a service entrance. He had seen similar doors throughout the ship, all of them leading to maintenance areas and storage rooms. Without thinking too hard about it, he pushed the door open and stepped through. What he saw made him freeze completely. He was standing at the edge of an enormous chamber, bigger than any room he had ever been in. The ceiling rose so high that it disappeared into mist. Violet water filled most of the space, swirling gently in patterns that seemed almost intentional. Crystal platforms floated on the surface, connected by bridges of light. The air was thick and warm, filled with the sound of water moving. And in the center of this impossible room, 3 royals floated in the sacred waters. Danny had seen before, but never like this. Their bodies were long and silver, covered in scales that shimmered like moonlight. They had no legs, only powerful tails that moved through the water with grace. Their faces were almost human but stretched and elegant, with 6 eyes each that glowed with soft blue light. All 6 of those eyes turned toward him. Danny opened his mouth to apologize, to explain that he was lost, that he had made a terrible mistake. But before any words could come out, he noticed something else in the room, something that made his heart stop beating for a moment. Floating above the central pool was a massive holographic display. It showed a map of stars, hundreds of them, connected by lines and symbols. Danny had seen star maps before, but this one was different. This one had Earth at its center, surrounded by red markings that pulsed with light. His translation device crackled again. This time it worked perfectly. The symbols around Earth spelled out military positions, fleet movements, invasion routes, and at the bottom of the display a countdown that showed less than 1 month remaining. The eldest of the 3 royals rose from the water. She was larger than the others, her scales darker, her eyes older. Danny recognized her from the diplomatic briefings. This was High Matriarch, the supreme ruler of the Empire. She was supposed to be humanity's ally, a friend who wanted peace between their species. But the map told a different story. "The small creature has entered our council waters," the matriarch said. Her voice was strange and beautiful, like music playing underwater. How interesting. Two attendants moved toward Danny, their movements quick and dangerous. They looked like guards, their bodies covered in armor that seemed grown rather than made. Danny stepped backward, his hand reaching for his tool belt, knowing that nothing there could protect him. But the matriarch raised a webbed hand, and the guards stopped. "Wait," she said. "Let me see this human who has wandered where no human should go." She floated closer, her tail moving through the water with barely a ripple. Her eyes studied Danny the way a scientist might study a bug under glass. There was no hatred in her gaze, but there was no kindness either. She looked at him like he was a thing, not a person. "You have seen our preparations," she said. "You understand what the map shows, yes?" Danny wanted to lie. He wanted to pretend he had seen nothing, understood nothing. But the words would not come. His eyes kept moving back to the image of Earth, surrounded by red warnings and military symbols. "You are planning to attack us," he whispered. The matriarch smiled. At least Danny thought it was a smile, it was hard to tell. "Not attack," she corrected gently. "Harvest. Your species has something we need, little human, something hidden in your blood, in your cells. We have searched 1,000 worlds for it, and finally we have found it in you." Danny felt cold despite the warm air. The word harvest echoed in his mind, bringing images he did not want to see. He thought about his mother back on Earth, his sister, his friends. He thought about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming for them. "The diplomatic mission," he said slowly, "it is a trap." "It is an opportunity," the matriarch replied. "Your leaders will sign treaties and shake hands, and while they celebrate their new friendship, our fleets will move into position. By the time they realize the truth, it will already be too late." She turned away from him, floating back toward the center of the pool. "Take him to the deep cells," she told the guards. "Keep him alive. His species will have many questions before the harvest, and this one might provide answers." The guards grabbed Danny's arms and pulled him away from the sacred bath. As they dragged him through the door, he caught one last glimpse of the holographic map, of Earth glowing red at its center, of the countdown ticking away. And he knew, with terrible certainty, that he was the only human in the universe who knew the truth. The cell was made of crystal, not like the crystals Danny knew from Earth, but something alive and warm, something that glowed with soft light from deep within. The walls were smooth and curved, forming a small room with no corners and no obvious door. He had watched the guards push him through a section of wall that had simply opened for them, then closed behind him like water filling a hole. Danny sat on the floor and tried to think. His mind kept returning to the star map, to the image of Earth surrounded by red symbols. He had spent his whole life fixing broken machines, solving problems that had clear solutions. But this problem was too big. He was one person, trapped on an alien ship, with no way to warn anyone about what was coming. He did not know how long he sat there. Time moved strangely on the ship. There was no day or night, no clocks that he could read. Eventually, the wall opened again, and someone new entered his cell. It was a young female. She was smaller than the matriarch, her scales a lighter shade of silver that almost looked blue in the crystal light. Her 6 eyes were large and curious, and they studied Danny with an expression that seemed almost friendly. "You are the human who saw the council waters," she said. Her voice was softer than the matriarch's, more musical. "The one who learned our secret." Danny stood up slowly. "Who are you?" "I am Princess. The matriarch is my grandmother." She moved closer, her tail sliding smoothly across the crystal floor. "I have wanted to meet a human for many years. I did not expect it to happen like this." "Are you here to question me?" "No, I am here because I am curious." She tilted her head, examining him from different angles. "You are smaller than I imagined. Your skin is so strange, all soft and pink. How do you survive with no scales to protect you?" Danny did not know how to answer that question. "We manage," he said. made a sound that might have been laughter. Yes, you do manage. That is what interests me about your kind. I have studied humans for many years. Your history, your art, your music. You are a young species, violent and messy, but you create such beautiful things. I have listened to your symphonies. I have read your poetry. You feel everything so deeply. If you admire us so much, Danny said, his voice bitter, why are you planning to harvest us? The princess was quiet for a moment. Her eyes dimmed slightly, the way a human's might when they felt shame. It is not my plan, she said finally. It is my grandmother's, and she believes there is no other choice. There is always another choice. Is there? Moved to the crystal wall and touched it gently. An image appeared, similar to the holographic display Danny had seen in the bath chamber. But this one showed something different. It showed bodies, lying still and lifeless. It showed medical data that Danny could not fully understand. It showed numbers going down, down, down. My people are dying, said. Every generation we become fewer. Our children are born weak, their scales thin and fragile. Some do not survive their first year. The sickness is in our blood, in the deepest parts of what we are. Our scientists have searched for a cure for 300 years. They have found nothing. Danny watched the images change, showing more bodies, more graves, more empty nurseries. And then we discovered your species, continued. Hidden in your cells, in the very building blocks of your bodies, is a compound that our scientists believe can save us. It is rare, precious beyond measure, and your people have it in abundance. You create it simply by being alive. So take it, Danny said. Ask us for help, we would give it freely. Would you? Turned to face him, her eyes bright with something that looked like hope and doubt mixed together. My grandmother does not believe that. She has lived for 400 years. She has seen species betray each other, destroy each other, lie and steal and murder. She believes that if we ask for help, you will see our weakness and use it against us. She is wrong. Perhaps, but she is the matriarch and her word is law. She has decided that taking is safer than asking. She has decided that your species must be harvested so that ours can survive. Danny felt anger building inside him. Not just anger at the matriarch, but anger at the whole situation. Two species, both capable of beauty and creation, and they were going to destroy each other because of fear. What does harvest mean? He asked, though he was afraid of the answer. What exactly are you planning to do to us? Looked away. The compound is in your blood, your bone marrow, your organs. To extract enough of it to save my people, we would need to process millions of humans. The process is not gentle. Most would not survive. The words hit Danny like a physical blow. Millions of humans, processed like materials in a factory. His mother, his sister, everyone he had ever known, turned into medicine for an alien species that was too afraid to ask for help. You cannot let this happen, Danny said. His voice shook, but he forced himself to keep speaking. If you know anything about humans, if you have really studied us, then you know that we help each other. We help strangers. We would help you if you gave us the chance. I want to believe that, whispered. I truly do. Then help me stop this. Help me warn my people. Help me find another way. The princess was silent for a long time. Danny could see the conflict in her eyes, the war between loyalty to her family and something else, something deeper. What you ask is treason, she said finally. If I help you, my grandmother will have me executed. My name will be erased from history. Everything I am will be forgotten. And if you do not help me, billions of innocent people will die. People who write poetry and create symphonies and feel everything deeply. Is that really better? Closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed in her expression. The doubt was still there, but now it was mixed with decision. I will not promise anything, she said, but I will think about what you have said, and I will return. She touched the crystal wall and it opened for her. Before she left, she looked back at Danny one last time. You are brave, human. Stupid, perhaps, but brave. My people have underestimated yours. I am beginning to think that was a mistake." Then she was gone, and Danny was alone again in his crystal cage. But for the first time since he had stumbled into the royal bath, he felt something like hope. It was small and fragile, but it was there. He had found a crack in the enemy's armor. Now he just had to figure out how to break it open. Danny had spent 12 hours studying his prison. The guards thought he was sleeping, but he was watching and learning. He noticed how the crystal walls pulsed with energy every few seconds. He noticed how the light changed color when someone approached from outside. He noticed, most importantly, that the walls were not solid all the way through. When they had captured him, the guards had taken his communication device and smashed it against the floor. But they had not checked his tool belt carefully. Hidden in the bottom of his repair kit, under a false panel that he had installed years ago, were spare parts, tiny components that he used for emergency repairs. Wires, circuits, and a small power cell that could hold a charge for about 6 minutes. It was not much, but Danny had grown up in the factory districts of Cleveland, where nothing worked right and everything needed fixing. His father had taught him how to repair machines before he could read. His mother had taught him that no problem was impossible, only difficult. He had fixed broken heaters in winter storms. He had rebuilt engines from parts found in garbage piles. He had made things work that should not have worked at all. Now he would do it again. He waited until the crystal walls stopped pulsing, a brief moment when the energy flow paused. Then he moved quickly, pulling the components from his kit and arranging them on the floor. He needed to build a signal amplifier, something that could send a message through the ship's hull and into space. It would have to be simple and crude, barely more than a radio pulse. But if it worked, it might reach Lieutenant Marsh on the human diplomatic vessel. Was his friend. They had served together for 3 years, sharing meals and stories, playing cards during the long, quiet hours between planets. She was smart and quick, and she had a habit of ignoring rules when rules got in the way of doing the right thing. If anyone could receive his signal and understand what it meant, it was her. Danny worked for hours, twisting wires together with his bare fingers, using bits of crystal scraped from the floor to boost the power cell's output. The device that slowly took shape was ugly and strange, a twisted mess of human and alien technology. But when he tested it, a tiny light flickered on. It worked, maybe. He could only send one message, and it had to be short. The power cell would burn out after a few seconds of transmission. Danny thought carefully about what to say. Then he tapped out a simple code, a pattern that he had invented during a boring night shift last year. It meant one thing: danger, come find me. The signal went out. The power cell died, and Danny was left waiting, hopping, praying to whatever gods might listen that his message had reached someone who could help. The crystal wall opened, and Princess entered the cell. "You have been busy," she said, looking at the burned-out device on the floor. "What did you make?" Danny saw no point in lying. "A signal amplifier. I sent a message to my ship." His eyes widened. "That is impossible. This crystal blocks all transmissions. Nothing can pass through it." "Your crystal was not designed by humans," Danny replied. "We are very good at finding ways around things that should be impossible." The princess stared at him for a long moment. Then she made that strange sound that might have been laughter. "My grandmother was right to fear your kind," she said. "You are more dangerous than you appear." "I am just a maintenance technician. I fix broken things. That is all I know how to do." "And yet you sit here in a prison designed to hold warriors, and you build a device that breaks all our rules of science." Moved closer, her expression changing to something more serious. "You are strange creatures, you humans, so small and weak and brief. Your lives are like flashes of light compared to ours, and yet you never stop trying. You never accept that something cannot be done." Danny shrugged. "We do not have time to accept defeat. Our lives are short, like you said, so we have to make every moment count." Was quiet for a while. She seemed to be thinking about something, wrestling with a decision that frightened her. I have done something, she said finally. Something that my grandmother would kill me for if she knew. Danny felt his heart beat faster. What did you do? I spoke with some of our scientists, privately in secret. I asked them if there was another way to obtain the compound from your species, a way that did not require harvesting. And they said yes. His voice dropped to a whisper. They said that humans could donate the compound willingly through a process similar to what you call blood donation. It would take longer, require cooperation, but it could be done. No one would have to die. Danny felt hope surge through him again, stronger this time. Then why is your grandmother planning an invasion? Why not just ask for our help? Because she does not believe you would say yes. Because she thinks your species would use our weakness against us, demand payment, or refuse entirely out of spite. She has seen too much evil in the universe to trust anyone. Then we have to show her she is wrong, Danny said. We have to prove that humans can be trusted. How? You are a prisoner and I am just a princess. My grandmother's word is law. Her fleets are already moving toward your system. In less than 1 month, the invasion will begin. Danny stood up and faced directly. He looked into her 6 strange eyes and spoke with all the certainty he could find. I sent a message to my ship. If my friend received it, she will come for me. And when she does, we are going to stop this invasion together. That is a very large hope for a very small signal. Maybe, but hope is all I have right now. Danny paused, then asked the question that had been forming in his mind. Will you help us? When the time comes, will you stand against your own people to save mine? Turned away, her tail curling around her feet like a nervous habit. I do not know, she admitted. I want to believe in your species. I want to believe that there is another way, but betraying my grandmother, my empire, my entire world, that is not a small thing. I am not asking for a small thing, Danny said. I am asking you to be brave. The princess did not answer. She touched the wall and stepped through, leaving Danny alone once again. But as she left, he noticed something. She had not called the guards. She had not reported his signal device. And she had told him about the scientists who knew another way. Was already helping him, whether she admitted it or not. The question was whether she would help him when it truly mattered. Danny looked at the burned-out device on the floor and allowed himself a small smile. The signal was out there, flying through space toward his ship. All he could do now was wait and see who answered. Lieutenant Marsh was sitting in her quarters when her personal scanner made a strange noise. It was a pattern she had not heard in almost a year, a silly code that she and Danny had invented during a boring night shift. 3 short pulses, 2 long, 3 short again. It meant trouble. She grabbed the scanner and checked the signal source. It came from deep inside the royal ship, from a section that should have been completely shielded. The signal was weak and broken, barely more than static, but the pattern was unmistakable. Danny was in danger, and he needed help. Thought about going to Ambassador Vance. That would be the proper thing to do, the thing that followed rules and protocols. But Vance was a politician, not a soldier. He would want meetings and discussions. He would want to consult with thee and ask permission and wait for answers. By the time he finished talking, Danny could be dead. Made a choice. She was going to break about a dozen regulations, possibly destroy her career, and almost certainly get herself killed. But Danny was her friend, and friends did not abandon each other. She found Pilot Cole in the ship's mess hall, drinking coffee and reading an old book. Was young and reckless, the kind of person who smiled at danger instead of running from it. I need a pilot for a suicide mission, said. Closed his book. When do we leave? She found Security Officer Ben Torres in the gym, lifting weights that would have crushed a normal person. Ben was large and quiet, a man who spoke with his fists more than his words. He listened to his explanation without interrupting. Sounds stupid, he said finally. I am in. She found Dr. Laura in the medical bay, organizing supplies with the careful attention of someone who hated surprises. Laura was the ship's, an expert in alien life forms. If anyone could understand technology, it was her. "This is completely insane," Laura said after hearing the plan. "You realize we could start an interstellar war." "Danny would do the same for any of us," replied. Laura sighed and grabbed her medical bag. "Fine, but if we die, I am blaming you." They moved quickly and quietly, avoiding the main corridors where the diplomatic staff might see them. Led them to a maintenance shuttle that was docked at the lower level, a small craft used for exterior repairs. It was not designed for combat or infiltration, but it would have to do. The flight to the ship took less than 10 minutes, brought them in through the lower docking ring, using maintenance codes that Danny had shared with him months ago. The codes still worked, and the shuttle slipped through the security grid like a ghost. "We are in," whispered. "Now what?" Checked her scanner. Danny's signal had stopped, but she knew approximately where it had come from. "We go down, deep into the ship, and we find our friend." Inside his crystal cell, Danny heard the alarms begin to wail. The sound was sharp and urgent, echoing through the walls in waves. Something was happening. Someone had triggered the ship's security systems. Danny stood up and pressed his hands against the crystal, trying to see through its glowing surface. Then the wall opened, and Princess rushed inside. "Your friends are here," she said. Her voice was fast and frightened. "They have entered the ship through the lower docking area. My grandmother's guards are hunting them now." Danny's heart leaped, had received his message. She had come for him. "Help me get out of here," he said. "I need to reach them before the guards do." Hesitated, her eyes flickering with fear and doubt. Danny could see the war inside her, the battle between her loyalty to her grandmother and her belief in something better. "Please," Danny said. "You told me you have studied humans. You said we create beautiful things. You said we feel deeply. This is your chance to protect that. This is your chance to save both our species." The princess closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the doubt was gone. "Follow me," she said. They moved through the ship's corridors, leading the way with quick and certain movements. The alarms continued to wail, and they could hear the sounds of fighting in the distance. Plasma weapons firing, voices shouting in both human and languages. They reached the ship's communication nexus, a large room filled with glowing panels and holographic displays. This was the heart of the information network, the place where all signals were sent and received. "If you broadcast from here," explained, "every ship in the sector will receive your message. You can tell them what my grandmother is planning. You can show them the invasion data." Danny moved toward the central console. His hands shook as he tried to understand the alien controls. The symbols were strange, but some of them looked similar to ones he had seen on the maintenance equipment he had been repairing. "I can do this," he said. "I just need a few minutes." "You do not have a few minutes," said a cold voice behind them. Danny turned and saw High Matriarch floating at the entrance of the room. Her guards surrounded her, their weapons aimed at Danny, and the matriarch's eyes burned with cold fury. "My granddaughter," she said, her voice sharp with disappointment. "I had such hopes for you, and now I find you here, helping this creature destroy everything we have built." "Grandmother, please listen to me," began. "Silence." The matriarch moved closer, her tail cutting through the air like a blade. "I have listened enough. I have watched your weakness grow for years, your foolish fascination with the humans, and now it ends." Danny stepped forward, placing himself between and the guards. It was a stupid move, the kind of thing that heroes did in stories right before they died, but he did it anyway. "Your granddaughter is trying to save you," he said. "She found another way, a way to get what you need without killing anyone." "There is no other way." "Yes, there is. Your scientists confirmed it. Humans can donate the compound willingly. No harvesting required. No war, no death, no destruction." The matriarch paused. For just a moment, Danny saw something flicker in her ancient eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or maybe just surprise. "You lie," she said. "Humans would never help us freely." "You never gave us the chance to try." Danny took another step forward. "You assumed we would betray you, so you decided to betray us first, but you are wrong about us. Humans are capable of terrible things, yes, but we are also capable of incredible kindness. We help strangers, we forgive enemies, we build bridges instead of walls." The alarms suddenly stopped. In the silence that followed, Danny could hear the distant sound of voices calling out. Human voices. His friends were coming. "You can still stop this," Danny said. "You can still choose peace." The matriarch stared at him for a long moment. Then she raised her hand, and the guards aimed their weapons at his heart. "No," she said, "I cannot." Guards aimed their weapons at Danny's chest. He could see the energy building in the barrels, glowing bright blue and hot. In a few seconds he would be dead, and everything he had tried to do would mean nothing. Then the door behind the matriarch exploded. Burst through the smoke, her weapon firing in sharp bursts. Ben was right behind her, his massive frame moving with surprising speed. The guards turned to face the new threat, and chaos erupted in the communication nexus. "Danny, move!" shouted. Danny grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the central console. Plasma bolts flew over their heads, burning holes in the walls and floor. The room filled with the smell of scorched metal and ozone. Appeared at another entrance, covering their position with precise shots that kept the guards at bay. Laura crouched beside him, her medical bag open and ready for the injuries that were sure to come. "We need to get that transmission out," Danny said too, "now while they are distracted." He reached for the console and began pressing buttons, guided by instinct and memory. The alien symbols swirled across the screen, but some of them were starting to make sense. He found the broadcast function and opened a channel to every relay beacon in the sector. But before he could upload the invasion data, the matriarch's voice cut through the noise. "Stop it." The fighting paused. Everyone turned to look at the ancient ruler floating in the center of the room. Her guards stood around her, wounded but still dangerous, and her team kept their weapons raised, ready to fire at the slightest movement. The matriarch looked at Danny with an expression he had not seen before. It was not anger or hatred. It was something deeper, something tired and heavy. "You think you have won," she said. "You think that by exposing our plans you will save your species, but you do not understand the truth." "Then tell me," Danny replied. "Tell me the real reason for all of this." The matriarch was silent for a moment. Then she gestured toward the holographic display and the image changed. The invasion plans disappeared, replaced by something else. Medical data, genetic charts, images of bodies lying still and cold. "We are dying," she said simply. "Every generation we grow weaker. Our children are born sick, their bodies failing before they can grow. In 3 generations, perhaps less, they will be extinct." Danny stared at the data, the numbers that counted down to annihilation. He had known about the sickness, but seeing it laid out so clearly made it feel real in a way it had not before. "The compound in your blood," the matriarch continued, "is the only thing that can save us. We have searched 1,000 worlds, tested 1,000,000 species. You are the only ones who have what we need." "Then ask for it," Danny said. "Just ask." The matriarch laughed, and the sound was hollow and sad. "Would your species truly help us? Knowing what we are, knowing how we have looked at you, studied you, planned to harvest you like livestock, would you really give freely to creatures who were ready to kill you all?" Danny thought about the question. He thought about human history, all the wars and hatred and cruelty. He thought about the times when people had refused to help each other, when fear and anger had won over kindness. But he also thought about the times when they had not, when strangers had helped strangers, when enemies had become friends, when people had chosen mercy over revenge, even when revenge would have been easier. Yes, he said finally, we would. The matriarch stared at him. You truly believe that? I know it. Danny stepped away from the console and walked toward her, ignoring the weapons still pointed at him from both sides. Humans are complicated. We are capable of terrible evil, but we are also capable of amazing good. We have destroyed each other over stupid differences, but we have also saved each other for no reason at all except that it was the right thing to do. He stopped in front of her, close enough to touch. You never gave us a chance, he said. You assumed we would fail you, so you never asked, but I am asking you now. Give us that chance. Let us prove you wrong. The room was completely silent. Danny could feel everyone watching, waiting to see what would happen next. The matriarch closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. The hardness was still there, but underneath it, Danny saw something else. Hope, maybe, or at least the memory of what hope used to feel like. If I agree to this, she said slowly, my fleets will stand down. My people will come to yours as supplicants, not conquerors. We will be vulnerable. If your species betrays us, we will not survive. I know, Danny replied, and that is exactly why we will not betray you. The matriarch studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to her guards and spoke words that Danny's translator could not quite catch. The guards lowered their weapons. The tension in the room began to ease. You are either the human I have ever met, the matriarch said, or the most foolish. I do not yet know which. Probably both, Danny admitted. For the first time, the matriarch smiled. A real smile, tired and uncertain but genuine. Then let us find out together, she said. 6 months later, the first joint human medical research station opened in neutral space. It was a small structure, not much bigger than the diplomatic vessels that had brought them all together, but it represented something much larger than its size. Danny stood on the observation deck, watching ships from both species come and go. Beside him, Princess looked out at the stars with wonder in her eyes. Your people continue to surprise me, she said. When we asked for volunteers to donate the compound, we expected hundreds, thousands perhaps, but millions have come forward, more than we could ever need. Danny shrugged. We like to help, it is just who we are. Even after what we planned to do, even knowing we would have destroyed you. Especially then, Danny turned to face her. Forgiving enemies is harder than forgiving friends. That is what makes it meaningful. Was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out and placed her webbed hand on his shoulder, a gesture of friendship that her people rarely showed to outsiders. The matriarch was right, she said. Your species is dangerous. Dangerous? Yes, but not in the way we expected. You are dangerous because you make others believe in things they had forgotten. Hope, trust, the possibility that tomorrow can be better than today. Danny smiled and looked back out at the stars. Maybe that is the most dangerous thing of all, he said. Across the galaxy, the story spread. A maintenance technician who had walked into the wrong room, a secret that should have destroyed 2 species, and a choice that had saved them both. Humanity, as it turned out, was exactly as terrifying as they had feared. Just not in the way they had expected.